Hi and welcome to Municipal Matters. Today's show focuses on creating a safe and healthy city. First, we'll speak with our City Solicitor, Cheryl Mellett, about the current legislation that governs our city, the City of St. John's Act. We will explore its current role, potential improvements, and the steps needed to align it with contemporary municipal laws across Canada. Later in the program, Constable James Cadigan from the RNC will join us to discuss community safety concerns and ways we can collaborate with law enforcement to curb crime in St. John's. Finally, Donnie Coady from the George Street Association will be here to discuss some of the recent initiatives and practices that bar owners and others have put in place to help ensure the downtown is a safe and enjoyable place to visit. We hope you stay tuned.
Every year it gets easier to see just how real climate change is. It's time for us to make better choices and take action. By recycling more at home, we make a world of difference, one blue bag at a time. We keep waste out of landfills, and we extend the life of precious natural resources. We all have a role to play, which is why MMSB is partnering with communities across the province to increase recycling at home. Join the curbside revolution. Learn more at recycleathomemnl.ca.
Safe and healthy communities has been a major topic recently. Joining us to discuss the city's role in a safe and healthy community is Cheryl Mellett, our City Solicitor at the City of St. John's. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So tell us about your past experience. How long have you worked with the city?
So I started working in the legal department at the city in August of 2011.
Okay, and where prior to that?
So I graduated law school in 2001 and started working at Coady, which is a private service law firm in St. John's, and I worked there up until I left to come to the city.
So one of the things that we often discuss when we talk about the operation of the city is the city's legislation and the acts that it works under. So there's a number of different acts involved. Could you kind of just give us a brief overview of how they of the acts that the city works under?
Yeah, so I think it's important for people to understand that the City of St. John's is a creature of statute, which means that all of the powers that we have, duties and obligations, are all written down in an act that is a provincial act. And so that is the City of St. John's Act. But we're also governed by multiple other types of legislation, such as the Rural and Urban Planning Act, the City of St. John's Municipal Taxation Act, the Assessment Act. So there are all kinds of different levels of regulatory rules that we need to follow in order to serve the City of St. John's.
I think the one that we hear about most is the City of St. John's Act. And, there's been a lot of discussion over the last number of years about a need to redo that act. So tell us a little bit about the City of St. John's Act and why we may need to have a new act put in place.
So the City of St. John's Act was first put into place, in the early 1900s. And it has never received any kind of substantial review and change throughout that entire period of time. It has received a lot of amendments, but one of the major issues is that throughout the country, you'll see in other provinces and other cities that they have transformed their acts into more modern enabling legislation. And what that means is it's not prescriptive. So the City of St. John's Act remains a prescriptive act. So unless it's written down there in black and white, we can't do it. And so you can imagine what St. John's was like in the early 1900s. It was a very different place than it is now with different challenges. And so that is what the act is written to address. And so I think everyone, including the provincial government and municipal governments, agree that it's time to modernize that legislation and bring it into line with most of the other types of legislation for municipalities across the country.
So is there any specific area of the Act that creates a problem for the city? I mean, when we look at it, you know, the issues that we deal with now are far different than the issues that we dealt with in the 1920s. So is there any area where in particular it creates a problem?
Well, if you look at something like the violation of bylaws and fines, when you read through the City Act, you'll see fines are like, $5 a day, $10 a day. The maximum fine that we can impose is $5,000, which in today's world with modern corporations and developers and a much more sophisticated development community, it becomes difficult to encourage people to be compliant with the Act when the fines are back in, dollars that no longer really apply. So that's one small way that you can look at it. There's all kinds of other ways that the Act needs to be improved, just about the areas that our bylaws can cover. In the Act now, unless it's explicitly stated that we can enact legislation in that area, we can't. Whereas if you look at some other charters of municipalities across the country, you'll see that they have broad person powers, is what they call it, which is like you're able to enact bylaws for the good governance, the safety, well-being, health of your community. But it leaves the discretion to the council to address the needs in their particular community depending on the size and the issues that it's facing.
So many times that residents may look to the city to move to be able to deal with certain issues. In fact, it's not able to because it's not within the jurisdiction as outlined under the City Act. That may be different from other municipalities too who operate under a separate act, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Every municipality has its own governing legislation, and they are unique to that area. And so if you compare some of the bylaws and some of the legislation that we have in St. John's to say a city like Toronto or Edmonton or Halifax, you'll see that their legislation is very, very different. And so sometimes people are confused by that because they look at a bylaw and they say, well, if they can have it in Toronto, why can't we have it here? And it does go back to looking at that enabling legislation to see if it's permissible or not.
So particularly when we talk about safe and healthy communities, the legislation plays an important role, and having updated legislation is very important to that goal. How do you, or what do you think is the status right now on having a new City of St. John's Act enacted?
Well, I myself have had several conversations and consultations with the provincial government about new, more modern enabling legislation for municipalities, and it has been something that the provincial government had been working on for some time. I don't have a definitive timeline as to when that will occur, but I do think that they are moving in that direction, and that's the direction that they want to see the City Act go in and the legislation for other municipalities. But there still is the issue of jurisdiction. So as you know, we have three orders of government in Canada. We have federal, provincial, and municipal. And municipal is the lowest on that three-tier. So we have to be very careful that when we're thinking about making new bylaws and new rules for our community, that we don't venture into jurisdiction that we can't legally go to. So one simple example is, we wouldn't be able to make a bylaw that made murder illegal and gave a penalty for murder, because that's in the criminal code, that's federal jurisdiction, and we don't have the power to do that. So when you're looking at a new City Act and what that might look like, it doesn't mean we'll be able to sort of work in all jurisdictions and legislate in all areas, but it will certainly give us a lot more flexibility so that council, who is elected by the people, can make the choices that they want for our sort of modern community. And I think it'll give us a lot more choices and options than we have now.
Well, we always talk about amongst municipalities about this order of government, and one of the sayings we use is that the federal government has the money, the province has the jurisdiction, but the city or the municipality usually has the problem. So those are important issues. Thank you very much for joining us, Cheryl, and giving us a very complicated issue, a very simple explanation for us.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back.
Metrobus on demand. Fast, affordable transportation at the tap of a button. Visit metrobus.com/book-a-ride for details.
Children want to learn new skills. High Five programs, like the ones at the City of St. John's, provide them with activities and tasks that make them feel special, important, and successful. Learn more about the city's accredited High Five recreation programs today. Neighborhood Watch is a free, community-based crime prevention program where neighbors come together to be a more connected and thereby safer neighborhood. Neighborhood Watch can help neighbors create a safer environment for everyone by working together, being alert to suspicious and criminal activities, being the neighbor you wish you had. Neighborhood Watch is a safe program. It's about keeping your eyes open to anything that looks out of the ordinary and alerting the police to help prevent crime in our neighborhoods. By working together, we can help prevent crime. Let's connect and protect. For more information, dial 709-726-0180 or email neighborhoodservices@stjohns.ca.
Welcome back. As we continue our discussion on safe and healthy communities, we're now joined by two of the favourite sons of Luggy Bay Middle Cove, Outer Cove. Constable James Cadigan with the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. Welcome, James. And Donnie Coady, who needs no introduction at Rogers, but is with the George Street Association. Thank you, Donnie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
So, James, tell us, we have, partnerships are very important when it comes to building safe communities. How does the RNC look at these partnerships in the city and nurturing those?
Yeah, I mean, partnerships are vital to public safety. If you look within an organization like the RNC, there's collaboration all over the place, whether it be different units and divisions. But then we get out in the community and it's partnerships with municipalities, cities, and certainly community groups who are working hard every day to promote public safety and develop plans to ensure that we all feel protected in our communities.
Mm-hmm. Donnie, recently we've seen some changes made in the George Street area, part of the George Street Association, with you as the lead person on that. We're able to bring some people together. How do you see these partnerships have been successful for you?
Great question, and I'll follow suit with James. It's an amazing journey to be a part of so many different member-serving groups coming together with a common goal. And I think that one of the best parts of the work that I do with marketing and communications with George Street, which is on one hand all about festivals and fun and tourism and culture, and on the other hand it's about managing a whole bunch of realities to ensure that everyone over here has a safe and enjoyable time. So partnership, communication, collaboration, critical to ensuring that that is a successful endeavor.
James, one of the things that we've heard a lot of when we even started with the Downtown Safety Coalition was looking at the reporting of crime. Mm-hmm. How important is it for people to make sure that they report crimes when they see it happen?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And to build off of Donnie's point there, we all have the same goal here. It's to have a safe community. And part of that is receiving reliable and timely information. Certainly as a police service, it's information that guides us and our resources and certainly our response. We are a complaints-based organization that we require that phone call and that report. So we've seen arrests all through the summer of 2023 related to violent offenses, and that comes directly from reporting from the community.
Yeah, and that kind of crime is graffiti is a really good example of some of the things that we see a lot of. That, Donnie, do you see a lot of graffiti in the downtown now, and what do you make of that whole?
I agree. There is a lot of that happening. A compassionate view is we have to wonder why the folks who are out tagging are feeling such a lack of connection to their own place. And I think that's an example of a compassionate view that we want to be thinking about while we work to make sure that these types of vandalism acts don't occur. There's some amazing projects happening in partnership. We talked earlier about business and arts and other organizations coming together to create spray paint, graffiti, mural, art-based projects. And that is done twofold. One is to beautify, and the other is maybe to show the folks that are out there in the midnight hours defacing property that there's a more elevated way for you to express your art. So hopefully there's programs and mentorship and things like that under that umbrella that can happen. But do I think that it is an important time for us to all be reporting incidents where we see these types of acts happening? Absolutely.
So, you know, we often look at statistics and when in terms of crime, but statistics are one part of it. There's also the feeling of being safe. So the RNC, and that has to be a concern for you when you hear things about people feeling unsafe in certain times.
Yeah, and I think that the appearance of a community, whether we talk about damage and graffiti that we've seen, tagging, that impacts the fabric of a community. And you know, if you see this level of lack of respect and different, you know, actions that, you know, just clearly show there's a little bit of uncertainty as to whether there is a feeling of safety. But what I can say is that what we've learned about our investigations into this damage in the community is that people are paying out of pocket to clean up that damage. You know, it's business owners, it's residents, it's you know, private properties, and you know, furthermore, it's city property. You know, signage. So this is all you know, essentially the city property. You're looking at coming out of pocket of the taxpayers to clean up this damage. So it's important to recognize the impact on the community as a whole. You know, a simple action of a spray paint on a building or a business has a significant impact to that person.
You know, Danny, I've seen a big, you know, collaborations happening, and I've seen people coming together to deal with this. The one thing about the Downtown Safety Coalition, if we go back to that for a minute, is that we saw the business community step up and take a leadership role on George Street. Yeah. What do you think is the key to what happened there?
I think reaching a tipping point where everybody who is member serving, various levels of government, all found ourselves, and I speak on behalf of the George Street Association, of course, in this context, but as someone who does work for several of the entities that comprise the Downtown Safety Coalition, which, for viewers, is a working group that was established about a year ago so that all of these separate entities who were trying to achieve solutions in their own silos finally came together to exchange energies, to collaborate. And I think, if you agree, one of the biggest initial conversations that led us to the positive momentum that we're starting to feel was the understanding that low reporting was a significant conversation that needed to be had.
James, I'm sure you see this in other communities as well. You have people coming together. Do you spend a lot of time dealing with community groups and the social sector? The NGOs in terms of dealing with these issues?
Yeah, so like I said, community groups and municipalities, cities, relationships with these groups are vital to our ability to protect our communities. Going to the Downtown Safety Coalition, what we learned about our interactions early on is there was perhaps a lack of understanding as to the authority and the role of the police. And you know, our authority is guided by legislation such as the Criminal Code. And you know, it's very much outlined by the fact that we cannot act without information. And when we shared this perspective and this fact with our group here, with the Downtown Safety Coalition and other municipalities, you know, it was clear that reporting is a big piece of our deployment and appropriate you know, distribution of resources.
Well, we've also seen this in other neighborhoods too throughout the city that have been experiencing problems as it comes with regards to not only crime, but also with people that are looking for help and looking for assistance. What is it you think is the key role of the community in dealing with this? What is it that an individual citizen can do to help the most?
Can you take that? Yeah, so essentially, the RNC, we recognize that we are not the sole answer to the question of crime, of addictions, of these issues that our community faces, mental health. It's these relationships, again, with the resources, the community groups such as the Downtown Safety Coalition, the City of St. John's. You know, we need to collaborate, recognize the concerns of the community, and you know, develop framework and planning to effect change. And I think that we're very much on the right road, certainly with the work done throughout the summer. there's a major increase in understanding as to the role we can all play to affect change and make an impact on safety issues and other social issues in our community.
So, what kind of feedback are you getting from your residents in the area and the consumers and the public on some of the initiatives that were taken this summer?
Well, just to paint the picture from a bird's eye view, it's ultimately the efforts of what was determined in the many conversations between all the parties involved in the Downtown Safety Coalition presented 8 major sort of areas where the needle could be moved forward in terms of increasing the feeling of safety. And so phase 1, very much about lighting installation, which was something that through a lot of donation and funds through federal and provincial and downtown St. John's, who we love, this multi-phase project has been moving through for over a year, as you know. And so the downtown is far more well lit now, especially George Street and the alleyways they're in, and the poles and the lighting adornments. It's all pretty amazing, the increase in lighting, which is a major indication of safety, or providing safety, is to have the area well lit. The other big area that occurred this summer under phase 1 was increased security presence, uniformed foot patrol on the street by ISS, Independent Security Services. They're the largest independent security firm in the Atlantic Canada, and the only one who was really able to step up and to be so lockstep with the RNC in supporting that effort, which was incredible. So to answer your question, I'll say phase 1 was all about lighting and having more uniformed security on the street. The feedback after these 3 months of this pilot, thanks to the provincial funding and George Street's own funding that was received, pretty amazing. Was I surprised? Yes, I was, because the feedback, the qualitative feedback of feeling safer was far more than what we expected to get feedback of from owners, patrons, staff, the security themselves. So much positive feedback is coming back from this initial funding.
Yeah, one thing that struck me about this is there's so many facets to this safety issue. Transportation is a key, particularly when we have large events in getting people back to their homes safely. Right. Has that created any issues that you see in the city?
So what I can tell you is that any proactive measure that can prepare us to provide a better environment, a safer environment, whether it be lighting, CCTV, security, and transportation, like we just mentioned. These are all measures that can provide a safer environment for everybody. And our officers see that on a daily basis. And and again, we talk about these collaborative efforts, but these are things that we've identified as a community, and we all learn from each other that these are very important aspects to providing an overall safe experience throughout the community.
I would think too, Danny, neighborhood watch programs are another key for people that don't have one. They can contact the city and look at ways to arrange one.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just had actually an amazing call last week with Ms. McGraw, who oversees Neighborhood Watch. Yeah. And because I think that we all need to be talking about Neighborhood Watch and bringing that back, and yet we need to know also that this Neighborhood Watch, which is famous for years, it's a neighborhood run program. It has to be volunteer. It has to be neighborhood run in full. But I think the art of looking out for each other in the neighborhoods we live in, downtown being no different of a neighborhood, is absolutely a conversation that needs to be brought forward in the opinion of many. And of course, as you know, phase 3 is marked to be, of course, the See It, Say It, which is the full circle moment of what began a lot of what we've done, is focusing on a campaign via generous city funds that allow the folks to understand, oh yeah, no, if you see something unsafe, you need to report that. There is a web form, there is a phone number, there are people waiting to take this so that it can be responded to. And a call that you don't make is a piece of data that we will not receive to help evolve presence in general. So it's important for us to report the things we see, and I will tell you that if I talk to 10 people about, do you know how important it is to report safety? Do you know that the RNC is data-based, and if you're not reporting issues, then what happens out front is not going to improve or evolve? Nobody knows that.
Yeah, so being aware of your surroundings, being aware of what's going on in your neighborhood is very important, and information that the police need in order to do their jobs.
Yeah, certainly. So I think what it all comes down to is we all play a role. The police, the residents, the municipalities and cities, everybody plays a role here. And, you got to step up when the time comes. Do not pass by a crime in progress, do not pass by a suspicious piece of activity. Report it and ensure that it gets the appropriate response.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you, James. Thank you, Donnie, for joining us this evening. And once again, it's a pleasure working with you in helping our community. That's our show for this evening. Thank you. Good night.
Did you enjoy the show? Let us know. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns with anything that you've seen on this episode of Municipal Matters, please drop us a line by email at municipalmatters@stjohns.ca. We will try to answer any questions that you may have.
Recycling at home is one of the easiest ways to help protect our environment. Believe it or not, a lot of what we're throwing away in Newfoundland and Labrador can actually be recycled instead of sent to the landfill. And since you're already throwing it to the curb, the only difference is the color of the bag it's going in. So let's break it down. What can you put in your blue bag? For starters, boxboard, cardboard, paper bags, newspaper, toilet paper rolls, the majority of cardboard and paper products can be recycled curbside. A lot of metal and plastic containers are also accepted. Aluminum pie plates, soup cans, plastic food trays, shampoo bottles, butter tubs and lids, laundry detergent containers, and milk cartons are just a few examples. But remember, some items are not accepted in your blue bag. Placing items like glass containers, coffee cups, tissue, wrapping paper, and styrofoam may cause your bag to be left behind. To ensure your recyclables find a second life, you should also ensure they are free of liquids, garbage, or food. And that's it. You just leave it right there at the curb. We all have a part to play. Join the curbside revolution. Learn more at recycleathomενl.ca.
Curious about what's happening in the city? Now you can stay up to date with all things events, arts, culture, and recreation. Follow What's Happening St. John's on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You've got plans.
And some nasty weather rolling in across the country today.
Extreme weather can hit quickly. Because of climate change, high-risk weather is becoming more common and severe across Canada. 1 in 3 Canadian adults have experienced a major weather-related emergency or disaster. Know the risks in your area and learn what actions you can take. Are you ready? Visit getprepared.ca. A message from the Government of Canada.